Another glorious day, y'all. Another glorious day. I hope everything good with you and yours. You already know. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give it a second before, y'all arrive in the building and all that. But yeah, if you're able to see in the title, I was told, or I wasn't. Yeah, I was told to be humble. Let's just, you know, say it as it is. And it's a very, very interesting suggestion, statement, especially, you know, living in a world where most aren't humble. You know what I'm saying? So, we're going to definitely speak a little bit about that, you know. Yeah, it's a beautiful Sunday morning. I just finished washing my clothes, so, I figured it's nice and early. I got some time, some a little downtime before I start my day, speak, about the topic at hand and the layers that revolve around what being humble to me means. And maybe, you got some feedback or suggestions of how humble should be, orchestrated in one's life, you know what I'm saying, to many degrees in which, again, that word humble is represented, you know, by way of one's mindset, ways and actions, and things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm gonna get right to it. And, whatever you missed in the beginning of this live, you can always play it back, you know? So I'm gonna get right to it. And, so this topic is not necessarily, you know, me constantly hearing or somebody mentioning to me per se or directly toward me to be humble. I'm mentioning it. I was or I got TikTok, and I mean it's really far and in between that I've heard this like mentioned to me, but it was sort of recent, so it was something that I wanted to expound on, um, especially due to a one situation that was very, very, very interesting to me. And what happened was I was at a doctor's visit, and I was at a doctor's visit, and I was there just for like a physical. All right. So we get to, the doctor asks you questions, and one of those questions are, have you ever had surgery before? Right. So yeah, I had surgery. I had surgery on my arm, and I mentioned that to him. I shared that information. I said, yeah, I had surgery before. He said, what kind of surgery? And I explained. I said I had surgery on my arm, and I showed him the scar on my arm. and the scar is it it's very pronounced. It's a fairly large scar, so it definitely got his attention, and he proceeded to ask me how did I encounter that scar, and I shared you know how it happened and what what it what the scar um entailed as far as the surgery and things of that nature. So so with that question being asked from the doctor, it turned into a conversation, right? And the reason why it turned into a conversation is that I wanted to share, and as I always share, about the tremendous progress that I've gained since encountering that this injury, okay? And what was interesting to me is that after me sharing the progress, and not only did I share, I can't just give feedback. I had to show him, especially him being a doctor. I went to my Instagram at that time, and I showed him a couple of videos of me doing pull-ups, and not just pull-ups, but really good pull-ups, which I do. All right. I came a long way. I really built myself back up to the point in which I'm at. But again, with me sharing that footage with the doctor of my progress, he said to me, you need to be humble because I may offend people by sharing the progress that I have achieved. So, I'm not offended by it. I'm like, wow, it's interesting because here it is, a doctor. Now, this is what I would think is a great thing to share with the doctor to, really show how great someone could work on, improve on oneself, and so that started another conversation, you know what I'm saying? And that conversation was about being humble. Now, so after he said to me, be humble, I might offend people with sharing how much I progressed or how well, I'm doing now. I then followed up with that doctor right in that moment, of course, and I said to him, I said, well, I won't be humble in the sense of ever, you know, not sharing or downplaying or any form of remaining silent about something that could really and you know, encourage somebody else. Now, I don't walk around, you know, to every, you know, any and everybody like, you know, look at me, I'm doing so great. You know, I don't look for pats on the back. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I mean, listen, it's a natural thing. People who, you know, overcome some of the worst tragic circumstances physically, mentally, I'm just saying, and bounce back is so many amazing stories. But anyway, so yeah. But I said to the doctor, I'm like, I said, wow. I said, but what about, so I said, what about the people, or I said, there are so many. So I basically followed up with a response, or, you know, I just was like, yo, so, but it's so many people that aren't humble, right? And it doesn't, so again, for it to be a situation where it can encourage somebody else, why would I stay humble about that? And then, you know, I'm a smart guy. You know, I'm a good judge of character. You know, so again, I wasn't offended by him saying that. You know, because I'm sure of myself. You know, listen, I love who I am, and why, of course, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. I'm going to invest in me to heal, to become better, to become stronger, and all that. You feel me? So I said to him, and I, you know, I named it. I said, just to give him something to think about from his statement. I said, you know, but I mean, you turn on your TV or the very phone. I said, and this is what I said to him. I said, the very phone on your desk. I'm quite sure when you scroll through certain apps, right? You see nothing but people that, you know, are more vain, braggadocious, and things of that nature than not. Even though he a doctor, that don't mean that he's not on social media, or you not amongst the world where you see, you know, people that aren't humble. Now, at the same time, I take it as a compliment. I took it as a compliment, that statement he said, and indeed I did, because it's like, you know, you not needing his approval, but it's clear the injury that I have, and what I've what I showed that individual with the digital receipts of doing the pull-ups and push-ups, and you know, it's obvious that this is a self-relied progress. You see what I'm saying, of what I have been able to regain, you know, with my mobility, you know, and for those, and I'm gonna speak on it, or I'm gonna share, if you're not knowing what I'm talking about. I had some major surgery. I have a laceration on my arm that consisted of like 2 or 3 different surgeries, but I had to get an artery replacement. And after I, you know, encountered this injury, you know, I started my YouTube channel not immediately after the surgery. I should have started my YouTube channel from back then, though, to be honest with you, so I could really have shown the steps and stages that, you know what I'm saying, I went through um, with this whole ordeal. You know what I'm saying? I should have really did that. And But anyway, so and that's why, yeah, I mean the channel is based around not, yeah, a lot of it, because I talk about it a lot. Let's just say it is, the channel is based around just what I'm made of, in the sense of, what I could have just easily gave up on, and just the consistency, and just how much fitness, you know, is the ultimate, is one of the ultimate ways to empower oneself, man. You know what I'm saying? Like real, like really, really. You know what I'm saying? Real. So um yeah, so let's get back at the topic at hand. So when we talking about, so when we talking about being humble and all that, there's levels to it. And see, because one thing for sure, one definitely should be confident, should love themselves, should be sure of themselves. And when you work on being a better individual, you have every right, and why not allow that to be displayed and representing who you are. And that's what makes us all special. But then you have the humble of, I mean, then, excuse me, then you have moments in which it's not like you, you really need to represent um that competitive nature, right? In terms of like sports, or there's a time and place to be humble. Let me just kind of go through the layers a bit, right? So to me, right, humble is me, for me, right? If I'm going to apply that word to how I define it in my ways and actions, right? In my mindset. It's like, from a humanity, right, perspective, right? In a positive sense of me being less judgmental of others, right? Um, me knowing that everybody's on a different level in life, right? I'm not outright just offending people with my opinions, and it's nothing wrong with speaking your mind and things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? But you know humble to me is being confident and not having to overly assert it, and like wear it on my sleeve, naturally through my ways and actions, by risk taking, by stepping up to the plate, you know uh when a situation is more uh um you know, least likely for somebody else to do so, you know, things of that nature. You know, and another thing too, right? Speaking of being humble, like I'm not the like so I one thing like fitness is not everybody's thing, right? So I'm not walking around like so I'm not the one to be like trying to preach and I get it, you know, like I'm passionate and stuff, and I have to like I gotta catch myself sometime where it's like, you know, most people, you know, they're not trying to hear all that fitness, get in shape, you know, type of talk or whatever the case may be. You know, so I really I just live in my world by way of doing what I do, and that's it, and it'll show by my results, my you know my progress, my physique, and things of that nature. So being humble, you know, again, is not so in a form to me. It's like, you know, just being, you know, I'll be considerate of other people's um feelings to a degree and all that. You know what I'm saying? And then understanding too that, you know, I know that I've come from a place of certain, you know, insecurities and challenges with, you know, self-doubt and stuff in my own life, right? So now that I have arrived to a place in my life where my confidence is at a great height and things of that nature, you know, the not so it's not for me to look down on others. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how I see it, you know, in terms of like being humble and stuff. But again, there's a difference between being humble and being confident, you know. So I'm going through the layers of what again how I see humble. You know, humble is if an elder is giving me advice, um, yo, peace. You know, so humble to me is if is being able to take advice. Being humble is being a student of life. You know, for me, that's what humble is. Knowing that there's so much for me to learn. There's so much that I don't know. There's, you know, so humble in that sense of, you know, being able to still take advice, being able to respect other people's opinions, to respect. Good morning. You already know. Salute. FBA. Uh, um, so humble in that sense, you know. And then there's moments that occur where being humble is not the thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Of course, if you're standing up for yourself, you need to speak up for something that is a situation that you need to address or what have you. No, not be humble. I'm not saying get out of character and, you know, be uh, you know, irate and lose your mind. You know, not in the form of crashing out. But then again, ultimately we live in a world where most people, and I'm not gonna say most people, but a lot of the world is based around, especially nowadays, right? With social media and stuff, because I get it, you know, the whole attention aspect is very much of what you know has an impact on people's character, or you know really elevates one's uh, 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 personality. You know what I'm saying? It really does. And you know, that's again, that's the human makeup of who we are, you know. And so with that being said, you know, that's where we have, you know, the amount of vanity that is displayed, you know, on social media. You know, the materialism and things of that nature. And I'm not against none of that. You know what I'm saying? I want that money. I want to live a certain way. And, you know, so again, there's so many layers to what humble revolves around. And again, it's just quite a few things that I name right now that I could just think of in terms of how I see humble. You know, humble is me also. I've learned, I've matured to where I'm able to, you know, refrain from unnecessary conflict. You know, for example, if I'm dealing with a store clerk, let's just say at the checkout line, and they got an attitude, or you know, I say good morning to somebody. It's certain things that um, we can get um, a negative response or energy, and it's like that's where I can exercise that humble energy, and for my own good though, to where it's like, you know what, this is, I mean, I may not have liked the 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 energy I received from an individual when I was, you know, giving a positive, you know, energy, or you know, just a hello, a good morning, whatever the case may be, and I didn't get the same in return. So it's just like, you know, being humble in the sense, like, you know, for my own good. It's not addressing or giving uh or entertaining, you know what I'm saying, something that really shouldn't get the best of me. You know what I'm saying? And that's so in that sense of being humble, that's where I've grown and matured, and again, how that word applies to me. But in terms of me being humble, as far as me standing on what I believe and choices that I make, and or decisions that I make, or like, or expressing myself in the sense of what it is that I don't partake in, just through, you know, people, places, and things. For example, right? Like if I go to if I'm at an establishment, or uh a place that revolves around food, let's just say that, like some type of event that involves food, right? And you know, I'm gonna pick the healthier choices. So you know, I'll have more of the vegetables and the things that are healthy on my plate. And see, in these situations, you know, people are very opinionated, or have something to say in regard to that. Like, that's all you eating, or you know, you eat so healthy, or people may make a comment or a statement, being that you're if you are an individual that's known to eat healthy in the fitness, or you know, just have that conscious, people know you to be conscious of your diet, and you know, choice of foods. You know, I know you know, and so a statement will be made towards you, like, I know you don't eat that because you eat healthy and things of that nature. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it 100 on that. Like, yeah, you know, you know, I yeah, just yeah, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't eat that or whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to downplay. So I'm not going to be humble in the sense of downplaying what it is that makes me a great individual, makes me, because celebrities, and let's start there. I'm just saying, so many people get all the praise in the world, but also what I want to say too, the point that I want to get at is how the goalpost is moved for certain individuals. Some people get all the attention, the praise, but then when it comes to certain individuals, now it's again that whole be humble. You might offend somebody. Um, don't get beside yourself, and uh, good things don't last forever, and this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying? So again, and I know I'm just gonna sort of jump around, making my points, and just as I go, and the things that I have to just again go through the layers of what I want to just break down with this whole being humble and things of that nature. So it's all of that as well. You know what I'm saying? That we all are dealing with in this social society of ours. You know what I'm saying? Whether in real life or on the internet. But again, so and that's another thing too. Um, there's nothing wrong with. So I'm not gonna be humble and uh, for example, like that how the saying goes, right? Money don't bring you happiness. You know, uh, I, I beg to differ. You feel what I'm saying when it comes to that statement? I think that does make money makes me happy, but I'm saying that um, in regard to, of course, I mean, money is a tool that could really make a huge difference in your life. How can that not make me happy? You know what I'm saying? How can that not make me happy? And I get it because, I mean, of course, if you're dealing with, something that is very depressing, I mean, certain things money just can't, fix or, bring the necessary healing and things of that nature, but again, my point is the whole humble aspect or, like I said, why not want the best? You know what I'm saying? Some do, some don't. Um, and I get it. So you have people in the world that live at their worst, and you know, everybody has a different story of what it is and how they, you know, uh, uh, became at whatever point it is from the highest to the lowest. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but more so what I'm getting at with what I'm saying with this point here is that but and this is what is so inspiring about people that come from the so-called bottom of not having the financial means of coming from um a state of life where you just you don't have much at all, but if you have again that confidence, you believe in yourself, not, and even just being born with the gift of talent that you don't necessarily, or that you haven't tapped into yet, and so a, a lot of a lot of those individuals will face a great amount of criticism on the way up of rising above said circumstance, and will again be faced and met with a lot of criticism, right? And or reminded of who they once were, okay? And if an individual who really believes in himself and wants to rise above a harsh circumstance and stuff like that, there ain't there's a great amount of not being humble in order to reach those levels of getting out of said circumstances that are at the so-called bottom. And then so it's very necessary for, and as they do, people who share that growth, the self-love, the process in which it took for them to be able to push past, think past, love themselves past, and to get to the necessary levels that it entailed to get to that space and place in their life where they're no longer that individual at the bottom, right? But again, like I said, it's more of not being humble, right? Because you have to speak up for yourself. You have to make demands. You have to defend yourself, right? And it's more psychological in that aspect, right? There is a such thing as proving the haters wrong. There is a such thing as, proving the stereotypes wrong and things of that nature. And you really can't be humble doing that. You know what I'm saying? Some people they have to be reminded that you are that deal. You feel what I'm saying? I mean, so there's levels to being humble. Humble into respecting others and to be considerate and stuff like that. And even with that, it's like, people gotta earn for you to be humble. And so I want to speak on that too, because and this is coming from a person where when I was young, I was overweight, and I'm just so glad, and more so than me having jealousy toward others, I was always more, and I'm just keeping it 100, you know what I'm saying? I was always more frustrated, mad, and just very judgmental of myself. But I was able to identify with certain things in my life that were reminders, even if and what I mean, those reminders of there's something special about me in my own right. You see what I'm saying? And I did a lot of comparing myself to others. Again, not more so. What I'm saying is comparing, like, as much as I might have looked at other people, more so from an outlook of them doing better than me, or having, whatever that I felt I lacked, per se. I'm so grateful that, you know what I'm saying, I still was connected to that part of me that also possess these great qualities. Now the thing about it is that I always had to go back to the drawing board, if you will, with me re-arriving to these qualities within, right? If that makes sense. So a lot of, especially the background that a lot of what I chose in terms of let's just say the street route, you know what I'm saying? Or just growing up in a certain environment, right? Being humble, it just, it, it's not going to benefit you. And what I mean is, and so, like a good example, even with, even with so many moments of sort of feeling defeated by other people's negative opinions toward me and things of that nature, to be able to stand up and fight for yourself, even if it's just speaking up, and even if you have to fake the confidence, you see what I'm saying? Like, you can't be humble, like, and just submit, like, oh, and accept, you know what I'm saying, that, they have you, you know, just pegged to their opinion, that they don't have you pegged as if their opinion of you is the truth. You see what I'm saying? So there ain't, again, it's not that much being humble in the world, especially in the world where it's very competitive, right? Uh, and most of it is psychological. You feel what I'm saying? Before it gets to the physical, it's psychological, right? When we talking about um the competitiveness, right? Because if, let's just say, you at work, you got a business, and it's, even with the marketing of major companies, um they're very competitive. You know what I'm saying? They're not humble with, they're letting you know, this burger, this chicken sandwich, this is better than that, this is better. So we definitely live in a world where it's very competitive. So you know what I'm saying? So they're not humble about you making that ultimate choice of, you know what I'm saying, you spending your money at this certain restaurant, market, clothing, right? So again, there's so many layers to, with that revolves around the terms of being humble. And then you have people that misunderstand um how much most people have to work hard and really do what is required in order to reach certain levels in life. And then again, it goes back to now, uh one should be humble due to somebody else's jealousy, envy, or insecurities of that person that now is no longer driving that hoopty. You know what I'm saying? Start, it's not even, because you don't have to be outwardly just having, I mean, people see, we all are in observation of what's going on. So, and people are very, even if they don't seem like they're paying attention, they are, right? So what I mean is, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling real good. Appreciate you asking. How you feeling? How everything with you? I'm gonna work out today. I wanted to, come forth and, get this live in. Every now and then, like I said, I just want to have a dialogue. And this is a very, just a very powerful dialogue, again, what I was talking about in the beginning of the let me just remind the people, this whole conversation is based around, me being told to be humble, right? And I'm expound a little further too on how, especially me being compared, not compared, but so me compared to so many people that aren't humble, and so I can give a comparison on social media, right? On YouTube, right? See, I could be, so this is what I'm saying. I could be humble and extremely confident at the same time. I'm headed to work right now, brother. Glad you're doing good, my brother. Yeah, I appreciate you. Word up. Have a good day at work. You know what I mean? Get to that money, salute to you, making it happen, providing for yourself and your family, for your contribution to society, by way of, making sure that wherever you work is, being able to function and operate with you and the services that you provide with whatever gifts and talents and expertise that you produce for that company. So salute to you, and have a great day. You know what I mean? Have a productive day, and yeah, get to it. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. Salute to you as well. So yeah, so what I was saying is, yeah, there we go. Humble and confident. Yo, Simon, what's goody? Yeah, you're welcome. God bless you. One love, for sure. All the time. Yeah, yo, Simon, I'm glad you reminded me. Just that quick, but it's okay. We back on track. So I could be humble and confident at the same time, simultaneously. And let me give you a very, very good example. On this YouTube platform, and many a times I've done live workouts, right? And I've had people into the chat and give me suggestions or bring to my attention what it is that I can do better in terms of whatever exercise I'm doing at that time. And then, pardon me, y'all, get a little air in here. So, and right then and there, while I'm on that live doing that exercise, I have no problem with applying that suggestion or, different way of how I can do something. And right then and there on camera, make that adjustment, and then actually have the gratitude that that individual shared that information, that knowledge, that feedback that I needed, that helped me improve what I'm doing, right? Because one thing, like, I'm not really on that, like, I'm an influencer, no, it's just more of like, for me, like, even when it comes to like social media and YouTube, I'm gonna share, and it's more so just about feedback, and more so of real life, what a lot of what we can relate to, and of course, always staying in the lane of becoming better. You see what I'm saying? So it's sort of like kind of addressing the shadow self, somewhat. You know what I'm saying? And for y'all that's in tune, and that's why I have no problem. And this is my way of, and I have to go about it in the way of pointing out what it is that I'm working on, I'm looking forward to, and things of that nature. And then at the same time, it's obvious that I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I get great work going, because it's obvious in my physique. There's exercises that I do on the channel that I've never done before, and I'll be the first one to admit or share with you, this is what I'm doing that's very new to me, because I'm honest with me. And see, that's what I like to share, this the beauty of, and that's, again, that's a way of how I am humble, right? To make the point with the topic at hand. That's how I be humble, but at the same time, very confident and very strong with who I am. You see what I'm saying? Because I can easily, and I've said this many a times, I can get into a whole spew about war stories or things that I've overcome in the past, besides fitness just being involved in what I have more of a past of, of doing the wrong things that was just a world full of negative consequences. You see what I'm saying? But that's not necessary. I mean, you have all that on the internet. You know, there's so much entertainment for that. It's so much more to me than what it is that I could try to prove how macho or any, you know what I mean? I don't have to do that. So again, a man that's secure, a man or woman that's secure, again, that's a way of how I'm humble. I'm a student of life. Just that statement in itself is, you feel what I'm saying? Transparency. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I wanted to speak on this too, because when I am told to be humble, or it's indirected toward me, it's very interesting to me, and because I know who I am, I have knowledge of self, so it's like, damn, I'm not, I mean, I'm no way at all not humble. You feel what I'm saying? In a very respectable manner. You know what I'm saying? But then, like I said, the yin and the yang of life, sometimes a lot of, and more often than not, some people just really need to be reminded, you know what I'm saying, of who you are, you know, and people will let you know. And we all know that, you know, just like when people get angry and upset, they're gonna let you know their true feelings, you know, and they're gonna attack you with your financial status, they're gonna attack you with your weight, they're gonna attack you with something that you've done in the past. They're going to attack you, and they're gonna let you know at the same time they are better than you because they have more, because they didn't, you know, have a so-called weak moment. You see what I'm saying? Um, you know, so and that's another thing too, right? Um, a lot of what people really want to express is silently concealed in their thoughts, you know, and sometimes it's a matter of them having the opportunity to show what it is that, you know, isn't or their true feelings, you know, what's not so humble about them, you know what I mean? So you know, and we all have that. I'm not, you know, it's I'm not exempt from that, right? I mean, of course, if you know, somebody gets me angry, you know, and it's something that, because you know, we all can go back and forth with our faults and imperfections and what have you, you know, and again, so like for me, what humble means to me is, you know, when I go about my daily, you know, my, you know, just my daily adventures, and I'm looking around and I see the world, and you know, you see people in certain situations, you know, and how I stay humble, man, is, you know, really, to be honest too, is like being grateful of so much that I don't have to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to what it is that I may be struggling right now with, and you know, and that's the beauty of life too. You know what I'm saying? That you know, what may seem like a struggle is really it's just a test of us relearning ourselves each and every day. I mean, if you are that type of individual to where it's like, you know, you are, you know, learning off experience, as they say, is the best teacher. You know what I'm saying? Not to change the topic, but do you have a top 5 or top books that help in your growth? Yeah. Um, the Power of the Subconscious Mind. I'm gonna tell you a book that I read 3 times, FBA, and it was a book. It's a book by Nathan McCall. It's called "Make Me Wanna Holler" by Nathan McCall. I read that book 3 times. Um, the Power of the Subconscious Mind. Um, I trying to think of the top 5. Um, that was first. "Make Me Wanna Holler" by Nathan McCall. Um, you know, interestingly enough, I mean, I wouldn't say it's my top 5, but you know what I read? I read the autobiography of DMX. I read the autobiography of DMX, bro, and you know, besides the rap music, I mean, it's just an incredible story, man, of you know, of his upbringing and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Um, That was one of them. I I read a book, and this is one of those hood books, right? Funny enough, it's called Blinded by Triple Crown Productions, and I read that when I was in confinement, and it wasn't one of those popular hood books like Be More Careful or True to the Game and none of that. But it was a book that and it was fiction, you know, but it had an impact on me, and so another book at my top five is I would say I'm just thinking right now. It'll come to mind though, you know. And I had started a book, and I'm gonna be very honest with y'all. Since the beginning of the end of last year, and this book is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think I mentioned that during the time I started reading it. I gotta open that back up. But I mean, if a book would be my top anything, to be honest with you, bro, it's books that really help me get my mind right. I'm really big on the mental, you know, and that's the beauty. And that's why, again, and I want to go back to when we talking about being humble, man. Thanks, no doubt, no doubt. Yo, salute, Games Brothers. What's happening? Shout it out. Yo, shout out to the chat too, y'all. Pardon me for my delayed gratitude. Appreciate y'all for hitting that like button. You know, if you choose to subscribe, I thank you in advance. You know, so this is our Sunday morning dialogue. You know, I want to, you know, stay the course with us having this this mental exercise, which is very important, you know, so that we could, you know, have even more of a physical strength, you know, because, you know, all that strength within the physical starts from the mental, you know. But yeah, books that I like are very much books. I like non-fiction books though. Speaking of books, I like books on triumph. I'm really big on, you know, overcoming, you know, challenges and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? I'm very much into that. I'm very into inspirational literature, you know. I'm very much into that type of energy, you know. And another thing too, speaking of books, I want to share is that I like physical books. I like actual manual, you know, books. You know, I like to feel the weight of the book. I like to flip the pages. I like to highlight, you know, my favorite quotes and passages and things of that nature, you know. And as I'm sharing this, you know, I'm thinking of some of my favorites, you know, because you hear a lot of in some regard, like the 48 Laws of Power, the Art of War and stuff. I like books like that too, you know. But I want to say this though, speaking of those, like those books in particular, you know, because you know, sometimes people get convinced that if they read a book as such as those that I mentioned with the Art of Seduction, the 48 Laws of Power, that, you know, you will become this master manipulator, or you have it more figured out than not about life. And I don't really think that that's the case with those, you know. You know, and you could take certain quotes out of there, and you know, in terms of not shining the master and, you know, having more enemies than friends and this, that, and the third. But, you know, again, there's nothing like the experience of life and really going through the true test of human nature. And one thing, and with that being said, and it goes back to when we talking about this topic of being humble, I'm humble in the sense that, excuse me, excuse me, I'm humble in the sense that I don't underestimate people. You feel what I'm saying? I'm humble in the sense that I know and understand that humans are very intelligent. I don't care, even a fool has a certain level of intelligence. And what do I mean by that? When you look at certain people, now we can apply that analogy of, and not to get religious or anything, but I'm just saying we can apply the analogy of God protects babies and fools, right? And I would say that's true, right, to a degree. And I don't even, you know, that's just to a degree. So let me get to the point I'm making. Even you could learn a lot from a homeless person. And what do I mean by that? Is because I know people in my community that's been homeless from ever since I remember. And why do I say that you can learn something from that person? Because if one had a conversation with said individual, you would probably be amazed of just simply what it entailed for them to survive as long as they have, and not just survive as long as they have, but it goes a little deeper in a sense of outliving so many people who have an established lifestyle, meaning the best health care, resources, food, shelter, clothing, and you know what I'm saying? So I don't sleep on anybody because you have wise people who could play the part of a fool. You know, so I listen to people carefully. And that's why I said I'm humble, because I have what is needed in order for me to, again, to be able to keep a broad perspective. You know, I'm so glad that I'm not closed-minded. You know, I can appreciate other things outside of my own likes and so that's again, man, that's a form of being humble to me too, man. Again, you know what I'm saying, and that's wisdom, and I let me tell you something. When we speaking about this, I always give credit to those that have supported me, and I'm not talking about no social media and all that. I'm just talking about at a time where I had to be reminded, you know what I'm saying, of whatever it was in order for me to get back in the right mindset. You know, people that have showed up time and time again, um, and that's the humble part. You know, knowing that a good amount of who I've arrived to has definitely has been gained through the support of others. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we could, or you know, people easily forget about what, you know, that's another thing. People could easily forget about what it was that, you know, supported them within that journey of you know, prosperity, you know? And so I give a lot of credit, you know what I'm saying, to those who deserve what it was that I received from them, and not just, and I'm not even talking about nothing material. I'm just talking about just a genuine, first, just a genuine uh having the best interests at heart. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people lack that. So you know that also contributes to a great amount of you know, treachery in the world. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a real thing. But you know, my whole point of what I'm talking about this morning is, you know, being humble in a sense of self-respect, respecting others that deserve it. Um, you know, me being a student of life, meaning that, you know, it's so much that people have to offer that again could bring about new ideas to us. You know, even a lot of times unlock a lot of people who have gifts and talents. You know, there's a great deal of those that really help them unlock what they might have downplayed. Because you know, when we talking about the mind, it correlates, or it's comparable to the reps and sets. So if you just constantly repping those negative thoughts, or you know, you're in a repetition of being in an environment, or a repetition of negativity, and you know, it could um, you know, you it can hide your own gift from you, you know, to a degree, you know. Yo, what's good? Limit Breaker, what's happening? Yeah, I've been great, brother. You know, I've been great. You know what I'm saying? More than anything, I've been great. You know, um, and I keep that on the forefront of my mind, Limit Breaker. And that's what we talking about today. You know, we talking about the whole, you know, people being humble and all that, and it's a time and place for that. you know. So the whole, again, that mental dialogue, that mental fitness, you know, that's what's really going on. That's what I'm really, you know, expounding on today. You know what I mean? For sure. You know, but I said a lot in this live. You know, and you know the thing is, when I get off this live, so much gonna come to mind, like you know, I could have said this, and you know, but it's natural. It's very natural in my approach of, you know, because I'm not here to script it. It's just a very organic vibe, a very organic delivery. Um, you know, and that's how I gotta, you know what I'm saying, bring forth this conversation, man. You know, and again, it helps. You know, steel sharpens steel. You know, and you know when we are able to have these type of conversations that really just really encourage each other. You know what I'm saying? To help us keep what's important on the forefront of our mind. And that's really what this is about. This ain't a bashing or this ain't a rant. This ain't none of that. It's just a real dialogue that, you know, for those who have a open mind to, you know what I'm saying, allowing that great quality to take you so much further in life. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, one thing for sure on this internet thing, and like I've said this before, and I'm going to say this as we become closer to this closeout, you know, yeah, like fitness, sports is very competitive and it's very necessary, right? Because people have different levels of where they need to really test themselves, challenge themselves, you know, where they get that self confirmation or what have you. And but then there's a very unhealthy dynamic, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to the fitness, you know. I mean, everybody got a different approach of how, you know, they interact with their audience or the points and information that they're trying to get across, you know. And so, for example, you'll have individuals like, you know, they'll just be very transparent, very blunt. You know, you're fat, you're out of shape, you look like whatever, you know what I mean? This is what you got to do. You know, some people need that. You know, and this is the thing too, right? Because I'm not the one. Again, I'm not. I being the one with a broad outlook of what makes the world so unique is the different ways in which people do what they do, but there still is the definition of being classy, character. You know, it's, you know, you have, at the end of the day, it's still gonna be a certain energy that's attracted and produced. It's still going to be what a, a certain response, reaction received from how it is in way in which the individual goes about representing what it is that they, you know, see the necessity of what it is for their gain agenda, you know, so you got all that too, and that's just what it is, because this is what I want to say too and that's why it's so important for an individual, whether negative or positive, whatever, so-called negative and positive, you know, you got to stand firm on your square. You know, you got to stand firm on your square. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be transparent with somebody. I'm not the one to be yelling in your face. And like I've also said too, my approach is not. I'm not the one to try to convince. I'm not with the trying to convince anybody to do better or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? If we could resonate, we could resonate. That's a great thing. You know what I'm saying? But as far as me trying to convince and getting my, energy worked up, because, and I'm gonna tell you something. Speaking of that, though, I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna be honest with you, because listen. I've been at certain stages in my life where, and I don't want to leave this out, where I was very negative. You know what I'm saying? I've been judgmental. Like, I'm not gonna leave that out. But when we talking about growth and development, working on the shadow self, I just feel better. You feel what I'm saying? Of not being, of those type of characteristics, right? So let me read what FBA said. As of the last few years, I'm firm in self-care, especially with mental health. It was times that I didn't want to get out of bed after my recent loss of a parent. Couldn't eat, sleep, didn't want. Right, so take care of your mental health. Didn't want to speak. I think that's what you were saying, FBA. Take care of your mental health, and that's a real thing, bro. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And my I don't know how recent, or being that you shared that, my condolences to your loss. What I would like to say to that, FBA, is that I'm here to tell you that your parents, have brought brought you in this world, and you honor your parents, that parent, by being that individual that they raised you to be, and remind yourself that you, by doing so, you know what I'm saying? I would say I never lost a parent. We all have to deal with that at some point, but I just want to say, I would have to allow the memories and the expectations of your parent to constantly be the energy that the expectations that they have of you to be that great person they raised to be. I'm gonna leave it at that for now, to say the least. You feel what I'm saying? But to further add on to that, and I think that that's like the biggest mental challenge that anyone has to deal with, is the loss of a parent. And I want to also say to you, FBA, I commend you that what I'm gathering just by you being on the platform right now is that you possessed a great amount of strength. Because when we're talking about, I'm just saying, depression, a feel of hopelessness, or, you know, feeling any of that type of way of, you know, that's of the lowest with, you know, of dealing with the realities of life. You know, you're a fighter, you know, and for the greater good, and a fighter in the sense that you, it's obvious, are someone who are strong mentally, because for you to even acknowledge the importance of mental health is a great thing. What I wanted to say was, it'll come back to me though, y'all, you know, and we could revisit this. Good morning. We could definitely revisit this topic too. You know, we'll have similar topics and things of that nature revolving around, you know, and this is what it is. I mean, I just want to sort of just carve out time for us to, you know, put the physical workout to the side and have these dialogues, especially like on a Sunday. You know, tomorrow's Monday, our week will be starting. You know, the challenges will be more intense, being back at the workplace, being at your place of business, whatever it is that you do. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a contractor, if you are, you know, just amongst society and trying to make a better way for yourself, you know what I'm saying? Obviously we will be met with challenges, and again, it's more mental. Excuse me. Yeah, you're welcome, brother. It's more mental than physical, you know. So it's gonna come back to me what I wanted to say, and it's all right. It's all right. Like I said, this is organic, y'all. So you know, I follow, you know, what comes from my heart, and of course intellectually, you know, I have to make sense of what I'm saying, you know. So of course I'm going to make sure, you know, what I'm saying makes sense to my best ability, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's being humble, because I know that, you know, by knowing I have to really, you know, work on certain aspects of my delivery and points that I make. And that's another thing, even with the fitness videos I do, you know, I make errors, you know. Let me tell you something. All the videos that I make is raw. I don't, the only editing I do, and I'm gonna be very honest with y'all, the only editing I do is chopping up my videos. I don't put filters. I don't highlight. I mean, I don't do anything. I don't fast forward the video to speed up the sets and stuff. I'm not into that. You know, I like for the work to fully be demonstrated through and through. You know what I'm saying? But and that's again that is a high level of confidence within me. And with let me say this then, and I've said this many a times. Now, I've worked out many years, many years. Throughout this workout journey, there was a lot of complacency. There was a lot of doing the same thing. There was a lot of insecurity. And I don't say that like in a negative sense at all. But it has to be heard I worked out. I became stronger. I've gained muscle and things of that. And I drive this fact home every time. I was not defined the way I am at all in my entire 20s, teenage years, and for many years, never took my shirt off. And the beautiful thing about life and what we don't, or what we aren't able to see in the future, and here it is, I'm on social media and just in real life, and now I can't keep my shirt on. Especially, of course, in the summer. It's hot, I'm taking my shirt off, you heard? And now, you have people who don't have a defined body and are very confident. And I want to say this too before I come to a close. You know, I mean, I want to sort of, I just don't want to leave out certain things. Again, confidence is not just appearance wise. It's so many layers. Because, you know, somebody could be overweight, not have the best body. It could be doing extremely well in life, have the most beautiful heart. And not even be you know, down and out on themselves. Like, you know what I'm saying? So just because somebody doesn't work out doesn't mean that they're unhappy with themselves either. You know, and I like to mention it because I just happen to be into fitness. I just love it. You know, I absolutely love it. You heard? So the thing that I'm so appreciative of is that the world that we live in, I mean, the time that we're in now with social media, with each individual platform, the people that resonate with you or who make that choice, who want to connect with the individuals such as myself, that, you know, that is our world to share. Yo, what's good? You already? Yo, AR, what's the deal? Salute to you too. You heard? Yes, indeed. You know what I mean? Good to see you. Shout out to the chat, man. You know, that's another thing too. You know, I want to take this time out, carve the time out too. Again, like I said, put the physical to the side, the physical workout to the side, and just have some dialogue. You know, that mental exercise. You know, it's just very important, man. Very, very important. I'm gonna go work out today. I just dropped another video. I just dropped a new video with the weighted calisthenics. Another milestone for me, as I'm always pointing out. Again, and see, I want to go back to what I said earlier in the video when I shared, for those who just entered the chat, who are just arriving on the scene. This whole video started from me. I started off talking about a doctor that said I needed to be humble because I shared with him the great amount of progress that I've achieved with my arm. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all can see that, but y'all seen it before. I ain't even got to go through all that, you know. But let me tell you something. If I just didn't do anything, and Come on, man. I be in the worst situation. I want to say this too, though, right? I want to say this too. Speaking of physiques um and giving yourself the necessary credit. So I'm not gonna be humble with being proud of myself, loving who I am and stuff like that, because we know the world could be very cold, and it's not about the world, right? But it does have an impact on people. That's just the reality. But you know, if I didn't work on myself and stayed consistent and didn't accept that, you know, my injury is now placing limitations on me, I would be in worse shape than I am now. Even with me working out with my physique, you know, I don't, like, for example, right? I don't have a six pack. I mean, I have 6 abs, but what reveals more, what's more pronounced, is my 4 abdominal walls. That's not going to stop me from not working my abs and trying to improve as much as I can. You know what I mean? I don't have the most rounded, broad, so, you know, I want to share that I work with what I have, and I'm not going to stop improving on what seems to not be able to be gained. I don't care. I'm going to do what I do, and I've revealed to myself, nobody is certain thing. Most in life, regardless of the outside encouragement, support, we still have to really dig deep and reveal to ourselves, confirm to ourselves what we're made of, who we are, our worth, and who we inspire to be, the purpose of oneself. And it's, again, it's so necessary for me to share this, and that's why so when I say, and when I share about not taking supplements, not taking anything to enhance or to, you know, enhance or to give me more of a speedy result, I do none of the above. You know what I'm saying? I'm 40 plus. I didn't become defined, ripped, shredded, whatever you want to call it, pretty much until my mid 30s and into my 40s, when I became more shredded. I'm gonna share something with you, right? I had a manager at the time tell me, he knew I worked out or whatever the case may be, and at that time I was like maybe 33 years old. All right, I was in my early 30s nonetheless, right? And I don't know how the conversation came up or whatever, but he felt the need to tell me, when I start to reach the age of 40, I'm going to see a decline in my fitness achievements. He said, my body is going to start to become different as far as aches and pains, or, you know, just more so in that type of feedback. And it wasn't the case, y'all. I've actually become better since then. You know, and during that time, I was smoking weed. You see what I'm saying? And yeah. Now, if I don't work out, anybody, I mean, if you don't do anything, I mean, of course, you naturally your health is gonna decline. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just sharing that too because if I would have, I don't listen to that. You know what I'm saying? I don't listen to that. Yeah. So that's what he said. You know what I'm saying? And I feel better than ever. And I'm gonna constantly share that. And this is the thing too. I wanna make mention of. Because when we talking about the yin and yang of life, it's so much negative, right? In terms of the self-destructive behaviors, whether it's violence, drugs, drinking, overeating, whatever it is that is gonna bring some type of heartache and oppression to somebody else. There's so much of that. That we all know that social media, real life, everything from real life that's basically is what is presented to social media. Then it has an impact on all of our it has an impact on everybody's psyche. Everybody, it has a psychological impact. You know what I'm saying? Why not? Why wouldn't I be, a form of a source of where that could counter, what I'm saying, what it is that ruins people's lives. Point blank, period, man. And again, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. You know what I'm saying? But through the organic dialogue and sharing the journey of self-improvement, self-development, shadow work, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do that. And a lot of what helps me is self-talk. Silently in my mind. I'm human. You know what I'm saying? So, naturally I want to react. Naturally I get angry. Naturally I get upset. Naturally I get frustrated. Naturally I get irritated. Naturally, you know what I'm saying, I get out of character at times, you heard? But one thing I could say for sure is that, you know what I mean, it's not, it ain't nearly as close to when I was before, where I was just always on the edge of crashing out. As many times that I've done. And that's what led me to getting incarcerated. You feel what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So every day I'm a work in progress. I don't got it all figured out. It's so much that I don't know. So I definitely can't be that individual where, excuse me, excuse me on that. So I definitely, it's not that individual where I'm walking around looking down on others and all that and just, just got so much judgment toward the world, because I got to always, self-assess, and check myself. But that don't mean that I'm not going to try to rise to, a higher standard and to, make it to a level in which, you know what I'm saying, is an opportunity for us all. So, so I like material things. I'm not denying that. Who wouldn't want millions of dollars? But even with that, it comes with a great responsibility. So me being very discipline and stuff like that. Discipline don't just come in the form of looking good and having a great body. Discipline is, if you hit the lotto today, excuse me. Discipline is if you hit the lotto today and now you have the means to buy whatever it is that you want. You know what I'm saying? And you have the money that's going to attract a certain crowd of people. Are you not going to work out? Are you not going to continuously eat healthy and things of that nature? You see what I'm saying? So we're gonna have another conversation on that too. You know, I want to speak on that too, you heard? So, you know, the shadow work, the self-improvement, the discipline, it goes beyond the park and the gym, and that's what I represent on the channel. You know what I'm saying? The fitness aspect is what I love. I love that. That's a great, powerful way to cope with oneself and to stay healthy, this physical vehicle. Um, you know, but the discipline aspect is the, you know, when things are going great in your life, you know, and another thing too, the discipline is when you're in a good mood, you know what I'm saying, when I'm at my happiest, you know, can I still, you know, still have a high level of discernment, right? Because you could be in the greatest mood and greatest space at the moment of time, and you could be the most vulnerable during those times, you know? Again, that balance. Yo, I said a lot on this live, you heard? Fitness is like a religion, you know what I mean? Yeah, you could say that. It's definitely like a religion to me, you know? And I don't say that to offend anyone, you know? So, yeah, it is. It's very, you know, it's because it's a very, very committed way of life, you know, a very, very committed way of life for those who take it seriously, you know. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? I gotta get up out of here, y'all. Yo, FBA, you able to hear me? I had a phone call coming in. I don't think that it interrupted the sound. So just you know, give me a thumbs up, y'all, if y'all was able to hear me. I had declined that call for a second. You know, I gotta get out of here. I've been on here for a minute though, you heard? I appreciate you, FBA. Word up, for sure, for sure. Word up, thank you on that. So yeah, y'all, you know, life is amazing, you know, and what I want to end out with, you know, as we arrive to this closing, you know, I could build with y'all, you know, all day. You know what I mean? I'm very talkative. You know, I have a very introvert side to me as well. You know, I like my alone time. I like that a very great deal too. But you know, I could be very social too, and hence, you know, here we are. You know, having such a great dialogue. But yeah, you know, just keep it on the forefront of your mind. You know, you know, what you are blessed with, what you are grateful for, more than not, and you know, help that, you know, yeah, allow that to help you, you know, get through your toughest days, your most challenging days, and even your happiest moments. You know, just stay the course, and you know, whether you're, you know, at your best or you feeling at your worst, um, you know, just really exercise a great amount of discernment, you know, each and every day, and to protect your energy, you know, and that's really what I'm getting at too. That discernment is a very necessary way to protect your energy. You are. I appreciate you, Simon. I appreciate you, FBA. I appreciate the chat. Salute to you all. Yo, AR, y'all already know, man. You know what I'm saying? Um, much gratitude to the whole entire chat. I'm so glad that I'm able to connect with y'all, you know, on this live. And again, like I said, this will be a part of the channel going forward, to where I just carve out that time to where we could just have, you know, these moments to where, you know, we could just get some real life subjects that we all deal with in our own ways, you know, similar and different. And I think it's just a very, very necessary, healthy, not think, I know, it's just a very healthy way that social media can be and should be utilized, especially for those who can appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of appreciation, I really appreciate y'all. Shout out to Games Brothers, Gusto, you know, all of my, you know, people, you know, the fam, you know, y'all family, man, you know, and I gotta give y'all that title, you know, off the strength, because you could be anywhere besides on this live with me, you know, so I consider you family for that. And you know, your continuous support by way of showing up for me and also giving me feedback, and you also encourage me with your feedback. I don't take it lightly, and I have to let you know that. So that's the humility in me, you know, is that I could recognize the positive impact those who have on my life for the greater good, you know, that contributes to me becoming a better individual, you know. So I really don't want to close out, y'all, but you already know I'm gonna catch y'all in the next go around. Of course, more content on the way. I plan to get to a new video today, get some footage, you know, get some footage done today, you know. But yeah, great chat. As always, salute you all. Anyone who just made that conscious decision to give me, you know, your presence, your time, and that's what it is. You heard? Yo, catch y'all on the next go around. You heard? Peace. And whatever it was, and I know things are gonna come to mind that I didn't expound on, but that's okay, because believe you me. Have a great day, everybody, no doubt. Believe you me. So much more for us to talk about. And I'll write down, and you know what? But not even write down, you know, when certain topics, subjects come to mind that are weighing heavy on my heart, or what is really screaming to be spoken about, we're gonna do that. But yeah, let me get up out of here, y'all. Appreciate y'all to the utmost. You already know. Huss.